Welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast series with U.S. Navy Special Operations veteran, CEO, and hockey fanatic Bob Pizzini. Bob discusses leadership, success, failure, defining moments, and hard lessons learned with guests who are intentional in their approach to leadership. Leadership is a perishable skill. Use it or lose it. In this series, entrepreneurs, industry executives, academics, public figures, and other highly effective professionals share their formulas for success with you.
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Elevate Your Leadership podcast. I hope you've listened to the show before, and if you have, you know that I have guests on the show. I only have guests on the show who have brought great value to me in my life, and these are people who I know will bring great value to you and your organization just by listening to the discussion. Today's guest, an exceptional guest, Adam Dobbins. Him and I have been friends and professional acquaintances for many, many years. He's a former Navy SEAL, owner of a business here in Virginia Beach called Gro Depot. And before I get too far ahead of myself, I'm going to go ahead and read Adam's bio, a little bit about him, and then we're going to get into the discussion. So Adam Dobbins is the CEO and owner of Gro Depot. Gro Depot is the biggest and best-stocked hydroponic store in Virginia and possibly the East Coast. Gro Depot specializes in, but is not limited to, growing media, nutrients, lighting, environment, hydroponics, propagation, education, craft cannabis, potency testing, mycology, and your seed to success. So he's got that's a slogan or a motto line there, seed to success. So Adam brings over 30 years of combined experience in military service, civilian leadership, management, and military contracting, delivering programmatic and results-driven solutions. After being medically retired from the military, from Navy SEALs, Adam faced personal health challenges and has witnessed many fellow veterans struggling with conditions such as severe depression, PTSD, TBI, ALS, MS, and other serious ailments. Tragically, Adam and I both have experienced the loss of close friends to suicide. These are very successful military retirees who found difficulty at some point and eventually took their lives. And, you know, it's a very unfortunate topic, but we're definitely going to dig deep into that. These experiences have reshaped Adam's perspective on pharmaceuticals and conventional Western medicine, inspiring a passionate pursuit of alternative health methodologies. Today, Adam collaborates with various organizations and foundations to lead a transformative movement dedicated to improving comprehensive and integrative wellness practices for veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. Adam Dobbins and your wonderful pet, who's probably out of the camera shot right now. Welcome to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Yeah, dude, it's great to have you here. So much to discuss. And let's start out with, I always like to go back to the childhood, right? And figure out how people became who they are. Where did you grow up?
Louisiana.
Okay, where in Louisiana?
So Lake Charles, down in the heel.
Okay.
So it doesn't get much more south, which is funny. When I moved here and they still said it was the south, and I'm like, nah, this isn't the south.
Yeah.
And it's lower than the Mason-Dixon, but down Lake Charles, real close to Texas. So I-10 area.
So where's all that accent? Where's the, I'm expecting like a Deliverance thing or
French.
I mean, you got the look.
Well, if I drink some whiskey or something, it's going to come out.
Okay, all right.
The twang does come out.
But I've known you for so long, and I've never heard that.
Yeah, well, we haven't had enough whiskey to get.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll do something about that. Okay, so grew up in southern Louisiana, and did you play sports as a kid?
I did. I played basketball and baseball and a few other sports, like bike riding a lot as a kid. Did a lot of hiking and hunting, and I mean, we alligator hunted, we deer hunted, anything, squirrel hunting, anything that crawled or moved, we shot it and ate it.
You know how to prepare a decent squirrel meal?
It's okay.
Okay.
I mean, I wouldn't say decent.
Okay. Tastes like chicken?
It's all about the char.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then what about sports? Were you real active with sports?
I was active. I wouldn't say I was great.
Okay.
it's just like everything in my career. I've been good at things, but I haven't been great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, now I can play golf, but I'm not awesome. I don't really play basketball or baseball anymore.
Okay.
I like to bike, and just right now, just as you and I both have these back problems,
Yeah.
it's more about mobility and just being able to stay functional in our daily life.
Did you play sports in high school?
I did.
Okay.
So I played basketball and baseball.
Okay. All right. Do you have memorable coaches?
I do.
Okay. All right. For good reasons or not good reasons?
I mean, there were a few. You've seen me fly in your tunnel.
Yeah.
I played basketball like that. So it was more of a Dennis Rodman style play. It was really good at defense, at shutting down the offense. And so that coach was just like, go get him, wild man. Just,
Gotcha.
if it means fouling out, so be it. But I mean, it worked. So I got a lot of rebounds. I didn't score much, but it helped the team.
And did you? So we're gonna go deep on Gro Depot here, but was part of your childhood, and especially in high school, did you get into growing things?
My dad was from Mississippi, and it was an area sort of like Chesapeake was before very became more modernized. So it was one of the largest farming towns in Mississippi. So his family traditionally were farmers, and then my dad was a doomsday prepper. So he was always growing things and messing with things. And when we moved to Virginia, I was just like, wow, my first place I lived, I grew tomatoes and stuff in the backyard, and it was so easy. And I just began to have a green thumb. And it's nice to be able to just walk in your backyard and pick something, wash it off, and cook it.
For sure. Yeah. We try and do that ourselves here. So you kind of grew up doing that, and that obviously stuck with you. So at what point did you decide you were going to join the Navy?
So I wasn't much of a self-decision, as it was a forced and learned decision, which was great. And I'm very grateful for the grace that I was given in that nature. So I literally tried to join the Air Force. It was just a little strip mall. I went in Air Force.
Yeah, all the
they were like, no. And then I saw Marine Corps, and I was like, no. Army, no. And then I was like, oh, Navy SEAL, I want to do that. And basically, that's how it happened.
Okay, and what year was that?
That was 98?
98, okay. So 98, you graduate high school.
97, I graduated high school, and I had already started going to college down in Louisiana at McNeese State University. Go Cowboys.
Okay,
there.
All right.
And was screwing around and got into some trouble, was around the wrong people, and what a great change. I mean, now if they could just reinvent the draft, or do something, especially with where our kids are going these days, what foundation I needed and got out of the military and the structure, just out of the basic, before even getting to naval special warfare, I needed that.
Yeah.
And it really helps.
Totally hear you. So, so many people I talk to say that same thing, myself included. I even wrote about it in my book. How, that the Navy, for various reasons, really put me on the right path where I could have gone down the wrong path. So that's awesome. So you went to the Navy recruiter. You said, I want to be a Navy SEAL.
They laughed at me.
Sure. How did that process go? How did you go from there to boot camp to BUD/S?
So I had gone to a really small school. I was in a small town. We were a Class C school, so not AA, not single A, not B, but C. So it was really small.
Yeah. In southern Louisiana.
He had that one chief from the Navy recruiter's office had come to our school and given us the ASVAB. And so we had already taken the ASVAB, and he had been calling me, and I did really well on it. So when I came in, he knew exactly who I was, and I told him what I had going on, and we talked to the powers that be, and everybody was like this, and we got to that point of picking a rating, just kind of like you would do in the Navy. And I picked one of the shortest ratings that was considered a
that's right, 98
field
rating, yeah.
Because until like what was it until
2010
that they had SO and they had their own rating.
Yeah, that was 2010.
Okay, wow, jeez, yeah. So I mean, here you and us in the Navy were studying these topics we never saw. We just had to learn it from the book to make rating.
Yeah. So what he's talking about for the listeners, real quick. Prior to 2010, if you wanted to be a SEAL or EOD or a diver, you had to have what was called a source rating. You had another job in the Navy, whether it was a welder. What was yours?
I was an aviation ordnanceman.
So he was an AO, aviation ordnance, right? So his job was to sling munitions on the underside of aircraft, fuse them, arm them, tell the pilot you're good to go fly that mission and drop that bomb. But the whole time, his real full-time job is being a Navy SEAL. And as an EOD guy, real close relationship with ordnance. I was an electrician's mate. But in 2010, the Navy made diver, SEAL, and EOD what are called source ratings or full-time jobs, even though it was already a full-time job. So anyway.
What a brilliant little rank that was.
Yeah, well, I remember the fight to do that since I was an E4. I mean, yeah, so a long time. All right, so he came in.
Because, I mean, the Navy, the whole time, from the second I joined the Navy, it was nothing but pushback for getting into the teams.
Okay.
So got into the Navy, standard, Navy, go to boot camp, shave your head and do that. First time I got a chance to go to the pool,
take the PT test.
I think I failed the pull-ups because of the way they made us do it, and I probably did like 13 pull-ups, but typical
that one
team
that one didn't count.
Yeah. So I'm like, and so then I'm like dead set to go back and to get my little whatever chief to let me go do that was a hard thing because they didn't want people. They wanted people to go in the fleet. They didn't want guys. They kind of seemed like it was shunned upon. Went back, crushed it. The swim was terrible, but I crushed that, and that was something that got better. And then just kept digging at it. But I got to Pensacola where the A school was, and then I had to find the guy that was the SEAL source motivator to kind of keep on that track. It was just a fight the whole time.
For sure.
I finally get to Buds.
Now, did you finish? You finished A school?
I finished A school.
And then straight to Buds from there?
And straight to Buds.
Okay, now that's a good deal. So you didn't go to the fleet. You completed your requirement, and somehow you were the AO community allowed you to go to Buds.
Right. Well, I had it in when I was in Louisiana.
Oh, it was in your contract?
I went to MEPS. It was in my contract.
Okay.
I did not sign that.
All right.
Because I
would guarantee a shot at Buds.
I told that guy, I was like, I am not signing anything until I get
Okay, so when I came in, that didn't exist.
Right.
Yeah. You took
it was nice. So finally made it to Buds, got there early. I got there during 221's first phase. And
so that's Buds class 221?
Buds class 221. I did their pre-setup and Hell Week support as a white shirt. I mean that I was a brand new guy.
Yeah, I want to be. What year?
That was 1999.
99, okay. So 99, you're in Coronado.
Yeah. All right. 222 joined up the class, tore my Achilles during Hell Week, got rolled back, graduated 223, went to SEAL Team 8.
That's here in Little Creek?
Here in Little Creek.
Okay. By the way, we're coming to you from Virginia Beach, Virginia. We're the highest concentration of Navy SEALs, Navy EOD, Navy divers. Highest concentration of the operational forces are low. So you came to SEAL Team 8 in Little Creek.
Yeah, and not only just here in Virginia Beach, but Hampton Roads and Virginia has about 700,000 veterans itself. We're a very veteran-dense state.
The third most dense. So, any guess what the first two are?
No.
Would never guess them, man, especially the first one.
No.
The most veteran-dense state is Alaska.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So now that you know that, what do you think the second one is?
Texas.
No. Alaska, right? Think wilderness.
Okay. Montana?
Close. Wyoming.
Okay.
Yep. And then Virginia's the third, which, is population density. It's not wilderness, but yeah, but you're right. So over 600,000 veterans in the state of Virginia. We are the third most veteran dense state. And I would say a very, very veteran friendly state. And we'll dig into that stuff as we go on. But Okay, so SEAL Team 8.
SEAL Team 8, get there. And when I was in A school in Florida, I graduated at the top of my class.
So A school, this is aviation ordnance, learning how to build bombs, load bombs, fuses. Cool.
So that gave me
EOD school, man.
that gave me the rating. So otherwise, had I not gone to the school and I showed up at the team, I would have been undesignated, and it's hard to get rank as an undesignated seaman. So I showed up to the team as an AO. I had also graduated the very top of my class in A school.
Oh, okay.
And it gave me this thing they called the Advanced Accelerated program.
Okay.
Which brought me from E1 to E3 immediately.
Nice.
And then I had a 6-month probationary period for automatic frocking. So to E4, automatic frock to E4.
Also third class.
Yep. So I got hurt in first phase after Hell Week, rolled back, and waited for the next class because I tore my Achilles and just gutted it out. Myself and my swim buddy were so messed up. I don't know. I don't think they let people go through like that anymore because of injury.
Yeah, the stuff that.
We were we were so messed up. I don't know how I did.
Yeah,
I don't know how I did it.
It was a different era. It was a different process back then.
So, anywho, I got rolled back. Ended up graduating another class, and so by the time I got into another class, I'd been there so long, I had made third class petty officer. So here I am, this 18-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And then there's only one other third class in the class by the time we're in third phase. I'm the second highest ranking enlisted guy that was a troublemaker, and this was way outside my wheelhouse. So when the LPO was fired, I was in charge. And so where I'm going with that is I get to the SEAL team, and I think that really hurt me. Is I was young and higher ranking than a lot of the other guys, and I got passed up for the first round of platoons. And then just fast forward as we're in the next platoon, that's when I had my skydiving accident, and just things did not go well for me in the Navy. It was just lost my hair after the anthrax shot.
Wow.
So 4th anthrax vaccination, September 1999. That day I had the shot. I had to have my roommate drive me home. I almost puked in his car and all this, and then lost track of total time because I was so sick. Then he drove me to the clinic, and after that, within 2 weeks, I had areata, which is just patches, alopecia areata, which is just your patches in your head. Lots of the guys at Dev Group were getting that in their beards. They were seeing it. Then totialis, which is your head up. And then universalis, which is your whole body, within 2 weeks. From
all your hair, all your body hair.
All of it. So that was after, but then the military didn't want to touch that. That was the first.
Well, they discontinued the shot, right? Because I was in Guam at the time, and I think I got the first 2, and then they discontinued.
Oh, man, that stuff was so evil.
Yeah.
It was like pure evil. The Army, it reminded me of that movie Army of Darkness, where he chops his arm off and puts the chainsaw on there, because as it went into your arm, you could just feel that. So when we were in buds and getting it, you couldn't use that arm for push-ups. It was just it was not good.
So you're at SEAL Team 8 and
get the shot, get sick, lose all my hair, still am working up for the platoons and get into the other platoon, do all that STT, get pinned with my trident, get into the platoon. We start doing a lot of BBSS type stuff. And then I'm working for the military freefall course, which back then was a lot different. It was the Fort Bragg, which is Fort Liberty now.
Yeah.
And then they go out
to Bragg again with Trump come.
When they, oh my gosh, what a bunch of money to spend on changing bases. Anywho, and then the guys would go out to Yuma. Well, if they didn't,
that's the school I went to.
They didn't pass the first few rounds of jumps in Yuma. They were kicked out, and then they still had those billets open. Well, there was something called the challenge course. And if you had a USPA, United States Parachute Association Class B license, which is a water jump, a night jump, and 50 jumps, I think.
Yeah.
And then you can start applying for the challenge course and go out there as an enlisted guy. And since I was already having this problem being passed up as an enlisted guy, I started picking up classes and was like, okay, started jumping. And then long story short, as that happened, I had in September of 2001, had a really bad parachute accident.
Military freefall?
Well, working, I had orders to go to that challenge course.
Okay.
And so we were out there doing jumps and working with the pack and getting ready to go to Yuma, because you had to have a B license, and then you also had to have a certain amount of jumps within like a week of going out there to the course.
Okay.
So it was an out-of-pocket expense for me, but it was orders to go get free fall qualified as a young. So
what zone were you jumping at?
At Suffolk.
Okay, all right. So what happened in terms of the accident?
So coming in on final, and
how big a canopy are you jumping?
160 triathlon.
Okay, so it's a fairly small and competitive canopy.
You're
a light guy,
right?
But still, that's a very aggressive canopy.
Yeah, I mean, my wing load wasn't too much. With pack on, I weighed then around 165, 170.
Okay.
So it was not really wing load, and it was a zero porosity, not elliptical. I tried jumping an elliptical a couple of times, and that was just too gnarly.
Okay.
So it still had a good wing load, and I had several hundred jumps on that rig, and came in, and what a few people said was I hit a verbal in my tail. Like I came in on my normal turn, but my back end was collapsed in a foil from a verbal, and then I kept braking on it instead of looking up and letting it reinflate. So I just kept braking, and
you had a collapsed canopy basically as you're coming in a final.
Coming in hot. And what's crazy is yesterday I had a Zoom call with my sleep specialist. I've started to get into a sleep special, and he's doing background trauma to figure out things that have caused this stuff. Ends up, he was there that day.
No kidding.
Small world.
Yeah.
And he told me he could hear the crunch.
Did you have any forward?
I had I had a lot of
forward airspeed.
I had forward and obviously down, airspeed. So yeah, I mean, I was that last few seconds. I mean, if anyone's ever been in a car crash or a gunfight or one of those things,
IED blast.
Yeah, IED blast or any of those things where you're like, I've had several moments of life where those things have happened, but that one was a lot more kind of time continuum as it came down, because I knew
it's just you.
I knew, I mean, I was, and even the guy that I talked to yesterday said he saw my arms, because we were in a Zoom call, and he said he saw my arms.
You were pumping, which is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, just pumping and digging.
Yeah. So cycling the toggles from basically zero brake to full brake to try and reinflate the canopy.
Yeah.
That's kind of the emergency procedure.
Yeah, but I never, and I asked him if my hands ever like kind of went back above my shoulders, and he said no, meaning had I let them go all the way back up to where they're really stirred,
it may have,
and then like maybe reinflated some to give me at least a couple of, so hit really hard to where when I was digging, I was in a seated position where my feet were up and my, I was digging that hard with the brakes to stop. So I hit my butt and then must have hit again, because when I hit my butt, I shattered L5, compression fractured L4 and L2, right meniscus and MCL, and then broke my left foot, which was a shit show, because when you're on crutches and both legs are, like knee, foot, I mean, I just had this knee done 21 days ago. I'm just now walking and going to
What year was this? So
that was September of 2001.
September 2. Wow. Okay. 9/11. What day? 9/11. 2009.
That was. Wait a second. No, that was September 2000.
Oh,
sorry.
2000.
September 2000. Yeah. So then 9/11 happened the next year as I was starting to get out of the Navy, and I was already processing out.
Okay. Hey, we're going to pick up the discussion, but And one of the things we're going to talk about in the discussion is health and wellness, because we have that in common, obviously. And I want to tell the listeners about one of the things that I've discovered recently regarding health and wellness. If you've read my book or listened to my previous podcasts, you know that health and wellness is critical to being a good leader and critical to being a good teammate. And I experiment with different things in terms of sleep cycles, in terms of exercise routine, in terms of diet, and in terms of supplements and other things that that can help improve my performance. And I want to tell you about something that I discovered recently called Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a shot of wellness, basically. It's a shot of energy. It's a holistic mixture, meaning it has ingredients like ashwagandha, it has agave, it has turmeric, it has lion's mane in terms of a mushroom derivative, and some other awesome natural ingredients that allow you to focus. Magic Mind literally allows you to focus and stay concentrated and stay what I call a peak state, right? So we have this peak state where we can really concentrate and we can really get things done. And then we have trough, where you can't get anything done and you're staring at the same spreadsheet time and time again. Magic Mind, which I've been using for about a month and a half now, really helps achieve the peak state, and it helps that peak state last for a longer time, meaning you can get more done. All natural ingredients. I've looked at so many different things, and Magic Mind is a wonderful discovery. I'm going to talk more about this in just a little bit, but I just want you to know that you can get a discount. This is normally about $4 a bottle, and you can get a 50% discount on Magic Mind. Let me find my note here. Go use the code. Go to www.magicmind.com and slash EYL Jan. So Elevate Your Leadership January. So once again, magicmind.com slash EYLJAN to receive a significant discount on your order of Magic Mind. All right, picking it up. You're seriously injured. You're going through the recovery process. And is this where you start to out-process?
Yeah, I mean, so I had the injury, was life-flighted out of there, and it took a little bit of time for me to really process the severity of this, right? I mean, I was all in. I was trying to better myself in the team and get picked up, trying to make rank, do all these things, and then I get injured, and it's just kind of a ego death per se. You're trying to figure out your new purpose, and I got into that process of getting out, which would be like your temporary disability retirement list into your permanent disability retirement list, which, oh my gosh, back then was a lot of work. And luckily, I had a lot of doctor friends, and within the Naval Special Warfare community, we had those doctors that came to treat us and see us. So I was able to get a lot of letters stating, what I needed. And for people's purposes listening, when you retire from the Navy and you're going for something specific, there's a specific code.
You're talking medical retirement.
Exactly.
Medical
There's
retirement.
a specific code that coincides with whatever you're going. You can't just go in. I mean, even for someone that loses a limb above the knee and or below the knee, there's a total different compensation for that. And it goes along with a code. And it's like, well, shit. I mean, what's another 10% of my leg to get this other 10%? Well, I'm not going to even need the kneecap now. You know what I mean? Well, it's kind of messed up, but anywho, so I was going for a code that was for mobility because of everything else, and that was the best thing. And so I was able to get a lot of doctor's notes and everything. And at first, on temporary disability retirement list, the military, it was basically a check. Just kind of like a, here you go, like, thanks for your service, see you later. And I think it was going to be like $7,000 after taxes, and I was pretty much like, screw that, and went and got a Jag and had to go up to,
So JAG meaning Judge Advocate General. You went and got yourself a military lawyer.
A military lawyer.
And you wanted to contest the disability rating? Or,
Yes,
okay.
disability rating. And then ended up getting to where now I have benefits, so which is nice. So that ordeal was worth all the work.
For
you
sure.
know? So, and by the time I got into my board, when the JAG looked at all the paperwork I had from all these doctors, he was like, "Man, this is, grand slam."
Wow. So you went through all that. You're at your SEAL team. You're getting ready to get picked up for a platoon. You're doing everything you can to challenge the free fall course and get through it. And then this happens, pretty much derails or ends your career as a Navy SEAL.
That's right.
Wow. So, like you said, psychologically, the momentum has got to be devastating. I've seen similar things happen to EOD guys, parachuting accidents, and other things. The UIs. I mean,
yeah,
their careers get ruined from that as well. But how did you rebound? How did you transition? What was what was the next thing then? I mean, obviously you had to heal to become functional. How long did that take?
Oh man, it was. I mean, that whole process, it was full of, anger, fear, pain, and a lot of things that I didn't want to face.
Mm-hmm.
So,
were you married at the time?
No, I was
okay.
So those had been repressed things for a very long time, and all I did was stay busy. As I was getting out, I was taking, because I still had a lot of time left. They were allowing me to do PT, physical therapy with Naval Special Warfare, which was a great facility. They had they had a civilian physical therapist, occupational therapist, and military. Great facility there that I was able to use every day. My command was letting me go in there 2 or 3 times a day, which now physical therapy, even with TRICARE out of pocket, I'm paying $50 a pop to go. So that was a graceful period for me.
Where do you go now?
I go to restorative therapy.
Okay.
I see this girl, Brittany Mayer. She does.
So they take TRICARE and you got a $50 copay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But she does dry needling too.
Yeah.
Which is great for some of us that have some of this deep pain that can't.
It's amazing how dry needling works. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So tell me your experience with dry needling and I'll tell you mine.
Well, I've done some acupuncture before, but also with the way that my body is set up with the trauma. So, for instance, I've broken my collarbone. I've got all this.
Shooting accident?
That was before. That was when I was a child.
Okay. All right.
Bicycling.
All right.
But I think, and I'm starting to learn because, like my hips, for instance, hips are always tight. I get those lumps that, you just
Me too.
get them out.
Get it. Yeah.
Well, it's probably because you're back.
It is.
It's a parasympathetic response to protect yourself. So, your body is saying that you can't be trusted. And so your hips are probably like mine where they're just knotted so tight.
Yeah,
you
it's called
guarding
or bracing.
Right.
So, but the dry needling, explain how that is helping you.
That will go in and they will literally put the needles into those knots that are protecting and hook up a TENS unit too and start inside the muscle in those knots and they will finally release.
Yeah, get them to release. Trigger points, I think they call them.
Right, exactly. They will finally release, which no massaging, cupping, oils, heat, sauna, stretching, rolling out, nothing works. It's really exhausting.
So it's amazing how well it works. So, I'm usually 7 to 10 in terms of lower back pain. So it's chronic and it's severe. And I was seeing a physical therapist, a PhD in physical therapy, doctor, and amongst her tools, dry needling was one of them. And it's amazing how well that worked. But it doesn't last long is the only problem. The relief is significant and immediate.
Exactly.
But
which is nice.
It's awesome. And I even one time I was joking and I hope I didn't insult her, but I was like, this is like sorcery or witchcraft. How does sticking a needle sideways in my skin relieve lower back pain. But it's like you said, they're getting those trigger points.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that thing that you said, one thing you said, the immediate release. So like you and I will have these days where, I mean, to the typical person, I mean, it's kind of like going to a car lot and, you know, you're 57 Chevy in blue and I'm one in red. It looks great, but you get underneath the hood and you start seeing all the issues, you know?
Yeah.
So on days that we have flare-ups, it's really difficult to, you know, speaking of leadership, and just anything, like you'll do anything to get better.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me when I have when my mental issues and or my back is flaring up, to have the executive presence that's needed in front of your team.
That's a fact.
I mean, you know, so I mean, like doing a lot of the stuff in your book, that pre-care, and then like I had marked, it's funny we're talking about this because I had marked this one part of your book on, you know, the science of leadership, because the aspects to bring everything together. And now that we're talking about back pain and all this, you have your work and your relationship and your job and then yourself. So back when we were in the military, it was mission and team.
Mm-hmm.
So now the implementation of self, right, is so different because, you know, we weren't even, our prefrontal cortexes when we were younger were not even developed. That's why we're so good at a lot of the stuff we did. We were just no risk factor.
Yeah.
Just get in there, get the job done, you know.
And just to clarify that real quick, so, and I write about it in the book too, but in the military and in business, right? In the military, we say shipmate self. Your number one priority is the mission of the organization. Your number two priority is be a good teammate and help out your teammates. And then self-interest comes after that. So, and that's kind of what you're referring to there, especially when you're on a SEAL team.
Yeah. So, and I mean, now with you're running iFly, you have a big team, you have a lot of people to look after. And sometimes within that mission and vision, you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't forget. It's just, it's hard sometimes. And to your point, right? You use the term executive presence, and that is the exact right term, because as leaders, we have to have executive presence all the time. And we don't want to let our guard down, but when I'm having a meeting with my leadership team and I shift in my seat because my back is red hot at a 8 or a 9 and the pain is chronic and excruciating, I shift in my seat and I make a face. And if I do that when somebody's telling me something, what they see is I make this face that expresses anger or disagreement, and they perceive it as anger or disagreement with what they're saying, when really it's just a response to the lower back pain. But that's one example of how this chronic pain affects your executive presence. So you're spot on there.
And I mean, that affects me with my wife, just making a face, and then it can lead, or just, you know, having someone's sensibilities being hurt by something that you're no intention to, you know, like you probably had your team member had a valid point to put out to the team, and you're just trying to get through the fucking, you're just trying to get through the meeting because you're in so much pain.
Yeah.
But also be there to hold space for your team to have things to grow. And I mean, with executive presence, also, especially where we're at, I mean, you have a book you've been promoting that you published, which is a full-time job. And running this business is the executive presence and then your public image,
right? Which
are very meshed together.
Oh, they have to be. Yeah. You got to manage all those. You know, they all. It's like the Venn with rest, hydration, nutrition, exercise. They all enhance each other, or they can all hurt each other.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, with my industry and my business as it relates to cannabis, and I work with a lot of foundations. I still raise a lot of money for Gold Star families. I'm working with Frog Dog Canine and some other people. You just have to be very careful, even though those things are legal within the confines of the state, people think and act differently, as well as how that executive presence and my public, kind of like my public affairs and my brand of
the brand of
what is going out there. Yeah, because
so let's just kind of wrap up your transition. So you had all these
bring me back to the
So you had all these injuries. You're going through a medical separation process. You finally get medically separated, and then what did you do upon no more military paycheck? Even though you're receiving a disability payment,
right?
What was your next line of employment?
And so I, as I was getting out, I also the Navy or military at that time. Excuse me. Was doing tuition assistance. And I was taking courses through tuition assistance and some Leo online courses to start getting my...
Leo, so that's law enforcement?
No, St. Leo.
Oh, St. Leo. Yeah.
St. Leo.
Yeah, I've taken classes there.
And then when I got out, I started going full-time TCC using my GI Bill.
Okay.
And then rotated my GI Bill into Voc Rehab once I got my associates at TCC in business.
In business, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And then went to ODU. I started doing international business and was using my Voc Rehab, which is better than GI Bill at the time.
All right.
And then I went for international business, changed my major, did international politics, mostly South America with a minor in Spanish.
Okay. All right.
So,
¿Hablan español?
Sí. Muy bien. Puedo leer.
Okay. All right.
It's very good. So, in one period, I went to school at the University of Costa Rica for a summer semester, which was really nice.
That had to be cool.
It was cool. I was one of the older American guys in the program. Only guy that was former military. And it was very odd. They just kept trying to plug us into these programs with the other Americans. And I'm like, I'm here to be in Costa Rica, not to hang out with
other Americans.
An 18-year-old that was... There was for instance, there was an 18-year-old from Virginia Beach. I'm like, I'm not going to hang out with this person in Virginia Beach. Why am I going to come all the way down here? I don't need to be rude.
Yeah. And you want to
experience the culture.
You want to embrace the culture. You want to immerse yourself.
And that's how you get better at anything.
Yeah. I lived in Italy for 3 years. Same thing, so totally get that. Okay. So did you finish your studies in Costa Rica? You did
that, graduated ODU in 2007, worked a lot of odd and end jobs, then was working with Lynx Global Solutions, which is out of here. Frank Cucci was the owner. I don't know if he sold that.
Yeah.
Former team guy.
He sold it and bought it back. And Marty Strong is led that company at one point.
Oh, that's funny. He's been on your show too. So.
Yeah. No, Marty's a good friend, man. Marty's a great guy.
Worked for Lynx, and then...
What did you do for Lynx?
I taught VBSS, which is Visit Board Search and Seizure, and Boarding Officer. We also did SRFA, which was basic ship on pier management for the fleet guys. And then the VBSS was for anti-piracy overseas. And
because the VBSS used to be a SEAL mission, EOD mission, but they actually expanded that to other maritime security forces.
Yeah, it was a really nice course. It was a 4-week course. We had 24 students per class. And, we took them from nothing and built them up to gunslingers. It was great.
Dude, hooking and climbing is high risk. 2 SEALs died off Somalia
around this time last year. Yeah, on the 13th of January.
And I guess my understanding is one guy fell off the ladder and the other guy jumped in with them, which is protocol, but neither of them were able to deploy their flotation.
Yep.
So working at Lynx?
Yeah, it was great. Okay. So got to shoot a lot, got to teach a lot of students and learn. I got really good at teaching the pistol, being out there on the course all the time. We taught mount, where we did room clearing and a lot of cool CQC
So
stuff.
the mount, just real quick for everybody, military operations in urban terrain, mount towns.
Right, mount towns. And then we had mock-up ships, so they would hook up and we would train them just like on-land ships. They would climb up. And then we had role players, which was really fun. So we got to shoot at them and we teach them a lot of...
I've been on the receiving end of a lot of that.
And we taught them a lot of jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. So how to get basic prisoner control. So we'd have red men, which the red man is when you'd have a fully non-compliant. Basically, if you go into a building and you're a police officer or something, think about a gigantic panda, but he's painted red in a sumo suit, and you have to get that guy apprehended.
Okay.
So,
all right.
And we always called it the red man because we just had these red...
Yeah, big red suit.
Big red suit with the hockey mask and everything, and that guy was totally non-compliant.
I'd have called him Jason.
Yeah, I worked there.
Myers.
Worked there until I picked up a gig around Mother's Day of 2010, doing anti-piracy and a lot of odd and end jobs for contract.
So when did you start with Lynx? By 2002?
2008.
What did you do from, because you got hurt in...
I got 2007, and then I went to school and traveled on Mac flights and finished ODU in 2007.
So you spent like 6 years, 5 years, 6 years going to school, traveling... so not really working for any particular organization.
Doing some bartending on the side.
Okay.
Just whatever. I bartended at that old biker bar down where it's a Dunkin' Donuts.
Bone Shakers.
It was called On the Rocks back then. That place was a hole in the wall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And then it was Bone Shakers. Now it's Dunkin' Donuts.
I bartended there just while I was in college to make some, when I was at TCC, the GI Bill, and what I was making was dirt. So, I mean, I was trying to make some money, so I'd have some...
But that, so you separated from the military, what, 2002?
2002.
All right. And then started working for Lynx in 2000...
I think 2008.
Okay. So there's about 6 years where you were doing part-time stuff, getting your education in place.
Yep.
And then when did the vision of Gro Depot get planted in your skull, in our eye, bald skull?
So, working with Lynx, then I had an opportunity. A lot of SEALs were working for this anti-piracy company. Worked over there, and we did executive protection. We did a lot of cool.
Can you say
I'm not gonna say their name. Just
no worries.
I have too much respect for.
No worries. But so you're riding ships through like in and around the coast of Somalia, or what was the major water?
To Somalia, and then now West Coast Africa. Man, West Coast Africa is no joke.
Okay.
So I did around 100 and something deployments with that one company. Wow. Some of them ranging from, especially during COVID. So started working there after Lynx. Let's get to COVID. Wow, what an interesting perspective I had on COVID, because I was overseas the whole time from 2000. I had gotten
March of 2020.
I had come back once and saw the way things were going with the job that I was going, and was like, fuck it. Like, I'll just take the vaccine, or I'm not going to work. How am I going to work?
Yeah.
So I had to take the vaccine, which I wasn't happy about. But then I got my ass back overseas before it really got crazy. Okay. All my shots. And then I was stuck. Like, I was working, but I was stuck. I mean, there was a time when I lived on a boat that was tied up to the Suez Canal for 15 days. Oh, my God.
Wow. When you say a boat, you mean a cargo vessel?
No, it was like a boat.
Really?
Like a little boat.
You looked
I couldn't get off of the ship because of COVID, but I had to get off another vessel to get on another one to go through the Suez Canal. It was a fucking shit.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So then fast forward, I was working for some oil companies in West Africa, and
On land?
land and out on the production and drilling platform.
Okay.
And we had a
Go called gas and oil platforms.
Yep. So it was a big platform. And then we had a project where we ran a 73 kilometer pipeline from the production platform to this island. And so we had this really cool, it was a floating hotel that had 4 screws on it, and they set up a prism on the platform, and it shot a laser.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of GPS, it would stay within 5 meters, and it had a movable gangway, which is just a walkway that was on a retractable landing. So all the people that were working on this project that were living on the ship could walk back and forth. And if the ship moved 5 meters away from there, it would automatically come up and move away from the vessel. And with SOLAS, which is safety of life at seas, which was made into place after the sinking of the Titanic, because when the Titanic sunk, they didn't have enough lifeboats. They got rid of the lifeboats so they could have more room on the decks.
Yeah.
The unsinkable ship sunk, and then they made SOLAS. With SOLAS, and why I'm saying this is a production platform or offshore platform can only have the amount of people on there supported by the lifeboat vessels.
Yeah, okay.
So in that project, they bring this big vessel up and it attaches, and all the people are working. You have to go back. And then if there's a fire or anything, those people have to go back to that ship, not the platform.
Okay.
And so I was out there during that.
But you were out there as a security guy.
Out there as a security guy,
Okay.
running with just one other guy for a long time. And I had a extremely difficult time. We were getting hit. We had a lot of, it was gnarly.
So you engaged pirates?
I didn't engage them during that situation, but we were having them right next to us with my land team and the client. And neighboring, I mean, it was right next to us. We got out of it every single time somehow, but it was myself and one other dude. And I had, something was going on in my body. I was running myself totally, everything you say to do in your book, I was not doing.
Okay.
I was not getting sleep. I was stressed out. We didn't have enough bodies. We didn't have any weapons. And then
full security.
Yeah. So, and then fast forward, we got hit really close and hard. And then the company all went into
small arms attack or
AKs. They shot one of the guys on the ship. He jumped overboard. It was a pretty gnarly situation. And then fast forward, we got these 4 crappy boats, and basically the entire military of these guys. I mean, they showed up with these AKs and all this stuff, and we got on these boats and just started patrolling. It was the craziest thing you would ever deal with. I've dealt with a lot of indigenous countries and trained and everything, especially after that Niger incident that those guys got ambushed. I don't know if you know about that. Yeah, we stood up a program and we're working with guys, teaching the techs on that and the locals.
That was SEALs and Green Berets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ambush. They got wiped out.
Oh yeah, to the very last guy.
Yeah.
So that's why we had stood up a program. Like I'd worked contracts doing that too. So I'm like, I get all over the place. It's kind of crazy. So to back on track is this Africa trip. I thought I got bit by a mosquito and had malaria because something was going on in my body. I was just like stiff. I couldn't move, and it was something different than normal back pain. And fast forward just until recently with work and job being stressful here with Gro Depot, some of that same stuff was coming back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it was stressing dudes, kind of like our hip pain and psychosomatic. But now I'm more aware and mindful to be like, okay, I need to down process this and not get to that same point, because when I was in Africa, I had a point where I basically had what I think is a mental breakdown.
Okay. But did you have malaria or did you have
No.
some physical?
No.
No? Did you, what was your lower back pain back then?
Oh, it was just, I mean, it was off the roof. I had to crawl out of bed into the shower and just sit in the hot shower to like basically move. I mean, it was.
And you're in that high risk environment and you're limited physically.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then we finally got guys with guns and all that. But I mean, their average IQ was 59.
Yeah.
They had the shittiest guns, like it was.
Yeah.
And so I was, after that, and I was stuck there because of COVID. And after that, I had enough. And I came back to Virginia and I was in one of our local hydroponic stores that has been there for around 30 years. And when I was over on that contract, we had no internet, very cut off from the world.
Wow.
So I get back, and that was 2000. And the laws in Virginia with our previous governor, they had legalized cannabis and the use of cannabis in a lot of the laws in doing 4 plants per household.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just in this store listening to this, and immediately...
Were you using cannabis at the time?
After I got back from that trip, I was.
Okay.
Because I had, and I wasn't going to go back overseas for a while, and I had enough time to, like, use it, get off of it, take my urine analysis test, and go back to work.
So were you using it for pain relief?
Pain and stress and everything.
Okay.
I mean, it's what, pain, fear, stress that I'm using to mask all those things that I know now.
Okay, so you go to this hydroponics store, and then what?
So they're talking about it at the counter, and I'm just looking around at stuff. I don't know what the hell I was doing there, to be honest with you. I don't know if I was thinking about growing or what, because you really only go to that store to grow indoor.
Yeah, it's like the first time I went to your store, I mean, if it wasn't you, I probably never would have went there.
Yeah.
And then when I went there the first time, you weren't there, and I was just walking around going, not really sure why I'm here. And then boom, you got the food for a Japanese maple tree, Yeah. Well, I don't want to get too far too fast, but anyway, you're walking around this place,
We don't only sell stuff for cannabis at my store, by the way. It's the place to go when you need stuff to grow for anything. But anyhow, I was in that store, and then I heard them talking about the changes, and immediately, so I've got family in California. My mom and brother live in Tucson. Now they don't live in Louisiana anymore. Tucson, I've got family in Colorado. And so where I'm going with that is I've seen all these cannabis cultures take off and go and do things
around the country.
And the way that Virginia's model was going to be set up was very similar to Arizona, and that's where my family lived.
Okay.
So it was very easy for me to dig into it, go there, do some recon, figure out what model I was going to do, and I found a great model and just went with it. And then started going to the stores around here and doing recon and telling them. And I was like, I'm going to build, because most of them here, the store down on Newtown Road, that store is maybe like 2,000 square feet. It's very small footprint. We have 8,000 square feet. I've got a Connex box, and I'm starting to build into the back more with a fence so we can have even more room for soil. We sell a lot of soil.
So you're at this place, you're not sure why you're there, and then when does the bug hit you?
I'm driving home, and I just am thinking about it. I get home and talk to my wife, and then...
When did you get married? What year did you get married?
We got married in 2014.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But we've been together since around 2002.
Okay.
I got out.
Oh, okay.
You've been together for a long time.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So driving home, and then we end up talking to some other people because the scale of where I was going, I needed a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so the banks all turned me down because banks are FDIC, federal. So, and
they turn you down. I've been through that.
And so it was, well, Not just the fact of being turned down by the bank for the business plan and or other investors, but because of them being FDIC, the federal bank
federal deposit insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, cannabis, and it's a scheduled, it's scheduled. So and that comes with a problem with the terminals and certain merchant terminals to bring up your credit cards and a lot of things, even though
illegal to transact it, basically.
Right. Even though state, and then I don't even sell seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these other stores are selling seeds and clones and all this stuff. I mean,
let's go back to, though, you're driving home, you talk to your wife, and what was that discussion like?
Wow. And very shortly thereafter, we had talked to some other people that were interested also, and then ended up having a meeting with some investors, and we kind of sourced through the investors and kind of narrowed it down to a little pool.
Uh-huh.
And the ones that were on board with the model and everything were the ones that we went with.
Okay.
And, now I'm kind of working through that.
Yeah.
Because that's
a new big change. Like, you're not doing any maritime security anymore. And now it's all about, I gotta stand this business up and make it thrive.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've got a great thing going now. My model, sorry, I was all over the place. Good that you're keeping me.
That's my job as a host, man.
Yeah.
So what year? So you got investors together. What year did you open?
So we got the key in. So cannabis became legalized in July of 2001 in the state of Virginia.
2001?
2021.
21. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow.
It became legalized for consumption?
For consumption, you can have an ounce on you. You can grow 4 plants per household.
Okay.
And that way,
you can buy it and you can't sell it.
You can buy it with a medicinal card. So it's only
from a dispensary.
Only from a dispensary with a medicinal card. So you have to have what's that?
Are you a dispensary?
No.
Okay.
So there's only a few dispensaries in the state of Virginia. They're run by Columbia Care. You have to have a medical marijuana card through the state of Virginia and or a script through someone that's licensed through the Virginia Department of Agriculture.
So you opened in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you put the business plan together. By this time, you and I have known each other for several years. You used to come in and fly quite a bit. And I know that you were discussing this with me, saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. How'd you do iFly? And, so those were good discussions back then. And I was going to say, I saw you go through the whirlwind and, you had hair, you would have pulled it out. Because it doesn't matter who you are, what kind of business you're opening, it's a struggle, and it's not easy. And if it was easy, everybody would do it, like they say. But I watched you go through this. So 2021, you opened, and what was the vision? What was the business model? What was the plan?
So my business model was to be a one-stop shop for mycology.
What's mycology?
Mushroom growers. A lot of people around here grow these gourmet mushrooms for a lot of these
restaurants
and farmers markets. So doing some mycology, doing microgreens. So a lot of stuff for the restaurants and chefs, and then having stuff for people like you with Japanese maples. I do a lot of Japanese maples. I love Japanese maples.
Okay, all right.
And then obviously the tomatoes and other gardening supplies. We have, like I was saying earlier when I got off topic, we have probably one of the largest selections of soil in the area. I mean, all kinds of different.
This is soil in
bags.
In bags. Okay.
Yeah. So Fox Farm, which everyone's knows. We got some Humboldt. We got Royal Gold. There's just a lot of companies that we carry, and everyone is very picky. So I mean, it's kind of like being able to go choose wine. If you like a Mayomi Pinot Noir or a Camus Cabernet or
your red blends.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and that's what people stick with.
You know what they call Mayomi? Cougar crack.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Isn't that hilarious?
Great. That's great.
Sorry, man. I didn't mean
No. But, we have, right now, where I was at my model from the beginning, I thought it would take 5 years to 7 years to get where we're at.
Okay.
And it's happened in 3.
It's awesome, dude.
And so it's very, now, like, I'm taking your course and doing some things. I was already, here we are. It's the beginning of January 2025. All the other stores have closed down because they were doing either nefarious activities or they just weren't running the business right.
Yeah.
Meaning, like I was saying, we don't sell seeds because of the whole transaction with federal and state, and there's gray areas. But for me, if it's a gray area, especially with how big our store is and like me being a former SEAL, it's like I would be the guy to get picked on and made an example. So none of that. This is a brand store. Like, yes, a lot of our clientele grow cannabis, but we are not a dispensary. And, we're trying to clean that up right now with my 2025 initiative for marketing, because a lot of people, and especially with how bad cannabis had been stereotyped back in the day as the devil's lettuce and the gateway drug and all this, and we haven't even been able to study it because of the way it's been scheduled. Yeah. So it really puts us in a very interesting point of the store where when I tell my team, I'm like, let people create, like when you came into the store, when people come into the store, let them create their own narrative of what the store is. If they think it's a pot store, let them come in here and have their minds changed by, wow, this is clean. Like
Professional setup, man.
My counters are made from trees that fell in the 2009 nor'easter here in Virginia. We milled them.
Wow. Who did that?
I did it.
Oh, you did? You did that yourself?
Yeah. So the wood at the Bold Mariner.
Yeah.
I donated all that red oak to Mike Stacks over at the Bold Mariner.
Wow. So Bold Mariner Brewing Company. We're gonna you know what? This is probably a good time to talk about Bold Mariner. Before we do that, though, I want to hit a couple things. We'll go ahead and set that up. I want to hit a couple things. One is you mentioned my course. So Adam, Elevate Your Leadership, right besides the book. We have an event here at iFly Virginia Beach. It's a one-day event. Elevate Your Leadership. We start it with the flight experience in the flight chamber. And it's very similar. Tony Robbins will have people walk across hot coals. But you face a challenge with a group of people, and you come out on the other side bigger, better, stronger, faster. And so that's what we do with Elevate Your Leadership. And Adam attended a course with some people from around the country 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was really cool. Okay, I wanted to hit that. I also want to talk real quick about, because health and wellness is really the nature of what we're talking about and all these different things. And I want to talk about Magic Mind one more time, because when it comes to health and wellness, I'm always looking for something that's going to give me the edge. But it's got to be something that gives me a lasting edge, not something that's going to make me crash. And Magic Mind, I discovered about a month and a half ago. And, I've seen Magic Mind used different ways. I've seen people put it in their coffee. I've seen them sprinkle it on food. For me, this tastes just fine. I do the shot, 2 ounces. I do the shot straight up, and it provides clarity that lasts throughout the day. I mentioned earlier a peak state, right? We have peak, trough, and recovery throughout the day. And when we pay attention to health and wellness, rest, hydration, nutrition, exercise, brain and heart health, and Magic Mind really contributes to the brain and heart communication when it comes to brain and heart health. So I recommend you look for Magic Mind. If you use the discount code that I'm going to give you, which is go to magicmind.com/EYLJAN, you will receive 45% off. And it's $4 a bottle, 45% off. You can get packs of 15 or more. And as I said, I highly recommend this. So Magic Mind, once again, magicmind.com, EYLJAN, receive 45% off of Magic Mind. Okay, we're going to pick it up.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about Mike Stacks, and we're going to talk about Bold Mariner a little bit. And this is just you being a good teammate, because I wanted you here to promote Gro Depot, and here you are promoting a friend of ours who's got a wonderfully successful business. And
well, it all comes full circle. I mean, you talked about earlier how I had come to you and told you about this crazy idea for Gro Depot, and Mike, and I look up to you guys as leaders in the community with companies with great teams. And now that I have a company, with Gro Depot, the place to go when you need stuff to grow, I've been building a team, and I see the importance, and I have to strive to tell my team members that. I had to give a disciplinary instance the other day to one of my team members, and I told him, hey, top down, bottom up, and weakest link. If you don't know what that is, and I explained to him, top down, bottom up, like we're only as good as our bottom guy. We're sales. You're our guy on the floor. We need sales to pay you. I need a good team to run the, these things all come together. Well, when I came to you and I come in the building, I see your thing with your great team members and everyone's proud to work here. Same with Mike. He's got an excellent product and a great team now. He was first started as such a small brewery and an idea, and now he's in that great facility, and he can't even keep up with demand.
Yeah, Bold Mariner in Norfolk. Yeah. So Mike Stacks we're talking about, also a former Navy SEAL. And, I have to have him on. I'm going to make a note there because this is a business and leadership podcast, but I have you on because you're a successful businessman in the community, a business leader. But then a former team guy, you and I have so much common in our DNA, and it's the same thing with Mike Stacks.
Yeah. So when he was building his first building, he did a lot of the crowd shares and some fundraisers, and Nate Hardy, he was a SEAL that was killed.
Yeah, we played
Mike Koch on that raid. Nate and Mike were very good friends.
We play the Nate Hardy Memorial Hockey game with the Boston Bruins alumni. We're there. Yeah, Nate Hardy's dad is there every year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, dude, it's an emotional event.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of guys. So one of his fermenters is after him. Another one's after Sean Glenn.
He named a fermenter Nate Hardy?
It's after Nate. Yeah, one of the fermenters was donated by them. And then another one was Sean Flynn, and he had basal cell carcinoma, brain blood cancer. Very interesting. He was a big jumper. But where I was kind of going with that is, I wanted to help him out with the crowd share, but I had all this wood, and he thought I just had 2x4s and stuff. Well, I had this beautiful lumber that we milled in 2009. We had a really bad nor'easter. And with a nor'easter versus a hurricane, we lose a lot more trees.
Yeah.
Because the rain comes from the same direction and the wind comes from the same direction.
Yeah.
Well, the roots get uprooted because the wind keeps pushing it.
And the roots opens up the ground.
Right. Versus a hurricane passes through and the wind moves in different positions. Here in Virginia, as we live, nor'easter trough or a low pressure trough can sit off the coast for several days.
Yeah.
So wood is too good to burn. So I went into the Norfolk Botanical Gardens and milled red oak.
Where did you get the wood from?
Norfolk Botanical Gardens.
Oh, these were trees?
These are trees that fell at the Norfolk Botanical
they let you come in there.
And somehow, by the grace of God, they let me in there with a friend and a mill. I rented a trailer from the MWR, and we milled all that stuff out there. And then I went and milled some other trees. So the bar, Waterman's, their outside bar, and my countertop at Gro Depot are the same tree, which was a Eastern Lebanese cedar that fell over by First Colonial High School.
Wow.
And that's the bar and outside tables at Waterman's down at the beach, and my countertop at my store.
How did you make this deal with Waterman's?
A friend of mine bought the planks back from me, and Mike Standing, which is the owner, another Mike.
Yeah.
Mike Standing paid my artist friend to make the bar, and he bought the lumber for me.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. That is really cool. Do they have a little plaque or anything that explains that?
No.
Do you?
No.
No? Okay.
No. I mean, no, but he does mention my wood a lot. So,
I'd make a little plaque, and I think it'd be pretty cool to have a little, like if your wood was here at all,
yeah,
I would have a little plaque that says, this piece of furniture or this whatever was handcrafted, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, that's just
it's good. I mean, I miss doing that. It's the art, because now I paint. I still do some woodwork, but it's harder to find the time with a business, especially now the holidays. I just had knee surgery on the 12th, where I had drilling, meniscus, all that, and I'm doing pretty well.
That's
but
good.
It's hard to.
Hey, I wanna wrap up Old Mariner or Mike Stacks real quick, because what we have here is a can. I'm gonna actually show it up here. It might be better. This is called Twin Pin. So Bold Mariner is the brewery. Mike Stacks, former Navy SEAL, and him and a friend of mine, Leon Tackett, former Navy EOD tech, who owns Tackett Family Vineyards. He founded and owns Tackett Family Vineyards out in Paso Robles, California. They got together and made a beer called Twin Pin. So in the Navy, if you went through the crucible of EOD and SEAL, you earned both those badges. We call you a Twin Pin. So that's the EOD badge, and that's the Trident. So we call that the Crab, and SEALs call that the Budweiser. So anyway, Leon sent used wine barrels from his winery in Paso Robles, California, to Mike Stacks in Norfolk to Bold Mariner, and Mike created a stout that he aged in those wine barrels. And the result is Twin Pin. So the story behind it is very cool, but I have to tell you, this is a delicious brew, and it's pretty high octane too.
I'm going to open that.
10%, yeah, go. So 10% alcohol by volume, but when they first released this, I bought like 3 cases of it, and they wouldn't let. They're like, no, limited. That's hilarious and all that. So then I went back and I had them poured out of the keg in one of those big, the growlers, and all that. But anyway, this is the last one out of the 3 cases I bought 2 years ago. This is the sole remaining beer. Adam, go ahead, enjoy, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so I mean, going back to that, I just have so much reverence for you guys, and Mike, and starting these businesses, especially now that I have my own business. Wow. I mean, from concept to beginning, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I mean,
all the business
training and books. I mean, I like to read I like to learn and earn money and have fun.
There you go. The 3 priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, your course, you had asked me that question about a defining moment, and then just your approach to those 3 defining really has helped me take a knee this year. I'm going to kind of take a knee and kind of rework on my brand and worry more about my health. And I'm very curious. So I think I need a 4th one, the curiosity, but learning, and then my health.
Yeah.
But, being able to grow your team, and, Mike's going to end up having to have another building to keep up with demand.
Cool. Is he planning on expanding? Have you talked?
That's the only thing you can do is scale and grow in a company, in beer, unless you collaborate with someone else to use the facility.
And he could franchise.
Yes. And I mean, this is where, I'm at with my business. So when I first got into business, I was using a lot of consultants. I love consultants.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be a fart in the wind, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you and I have very broad right and left margins of fire when it comes to running a business, because we've seen so much more than other people have. So right out the bat, coming from the military, running a business gives anyone an upper hand. Anyone, I think, giving a business.
Why do you think that is?
We have way more structure.
Yep.
We're able to follow orders. Just just the structure and everything of itself it just helps.
So structure, so organizational architecture. Like I have 40 employees, and I set this place up almost like a military command, right? For about every 6 or 7 line people, you got a supervisor, right? LPO, LCPO, so that's one thing. The other thing is, I think mission, right? So I'm sure you have a mission statement at Gro Depot, and I think that's what gives us the advantages. We establish the mission, and then we do all the planning, manning, training, equipage. We do everything we need to do to achieve that mission. And the mission is the vision. It's the North Star. It's the direction that everybody needs to be heading in that direction. And if somebody's not, you can only get, like Ryan Crowley says, former SEAL captain, he'll let people get off course a few degrees because sometimes that exploration can be very good. But if they get so many degrees off course, he's got to bring them back. So that's a podcast episode as well, Ryan Crowley. So,
well, that's like the sort of yours is similar to mine. I like Alden Mills, like his Unstoppable Team one, where it's that care loop, where it's connect, achieve, respect, and empower.
Cool.
But my problem is, as a leader with the empower, a lot of times I give people too much rope.
Uh-huh.
And then the complacency or lead, it's just like, an untrained dog.
Mm-hmm.
Is you
What's she doing down there anyway?
she's chilling.
I thought she was going to participate in this discussion a little bit.
Well, and where I'm going with that is you give, with any job, is the complacency. So is just keeping up with the employees and not letting them hang themselves out to dry with that empowerment and or being able to move forward. Like when you hire your team members, you give them a book to read, which I've always thought that was great. And I tried that with my company, and it was like I had a unicorn horn growing out of my forehead, but that's just our two different environments of where we're working, I mean,
Yeah.
You're, not that my employees and the people I'm hiring are not as hungry, but where your way that you set things up, it makes them hungry enough to want to, hey, yeah. Yes, sir. I read that book. Yes, sir. Sure. I will read that book.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
when people are new, they're motivated. You got to get them, right when they come through the door. But it also, if they read that book, it'll help you understand what that person's all about. I don't give them a 500-page novel. My book's 170 pages. I don't even give them my book. I give them Sue Bingham's book called The High Performance Workplace. It's 100 pages. And it's very simple. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just empowering your own people, it helps give them a little more, continuity of, little of the family, of the business, and to be able to grow within it.
Yeah, for sure. How many employees do you have?
I have 8.
Okay. All right. And then what, do you run 2 shifts or?
I do.
Okay. That can be tricky when you start, doing the shift thing too. Especially if you're pushing the bounds of 2 shifts and it's like, you got to extend beyond.
And there's always something going on. We're always getting new product. It's a lot to keep up with. So having the militaristic turnover, and that structure has very much helped. And right now I have a retired chief, bosun chief that works for me. I love him. It's great.
Okay.
Another retired.
Call him Boats?
No.
Okay.
I just call him chief.
Okay. Or that. Either one. And either one's
I don't want to term of a Navy guy. There, and Army. I have an Army guy. So it's great having. If it was within my will, all my guys would be former veterans because I think they know what to expect because with civilians, and that was one thing is getting into civilian work was my expectation management was way off.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. And
totally get that.
And you can't talk to everybody like a team guy. Like,
can't talk to anybody like
especially in these days of sensibilities. Yeah. So it was a huge shock of coming from the culture of deploying all the time with all the one percenters. And I say that because the special forces guys I was working with the top tier percent of the military.
Yeah.
And then I go into business and I'm working with civilians that just really don't have a whole lot of ambition.
Yeah. Or a similar background.
Similar background. Not that they don't have ambition, but it's just they don't have these same ambitions.
Yeah. And so it's a different mindset.
Here, you and I have seen what the human is capable of.
Yeah.
So it's just like I'm only working at 10% and I feel like something's going wrong here. And it was just a very defining moment for me to start working with just only civilians and not to rely on, okay, is he really going to do this?
So real quick. So Adam's referred to defining moment a couple times. And one of the exercises we do in the Elevate Your Leadership course here at iFly Virginia Beach is I ask everybody I tell a story of a defining moment, something that fundamentally changed who I am or the way I think or act. And we all have those experiences in our lives. And so one of our exercises is to have everybody dig deep, find a defining moment, and then you share that defining moment with your teammates and you build a story around this defining moment. And, she's going to take a little sip. Nope, she's like, she knows better.
She likes Frogman Lager. I think this is too much for her.
Yeah. But we build a story around these defining moments and you share that story with your teammates. And it helps you become a better leader. It helps you understand yourself better. It helps other people understand you better. And ultimately, it allows you to go forward. I want to take a minute to tell you about my book titled Elevate Your Leadership, How to Develop, Maintain, and Advance Lifelong Leadership. This book is based on my 26 years in U.S. Navy Special Operations and now 13 years in the private sector. Leadership is a perishable skill and a personal brand. In part 1, I guide you through building and applying your personal brand of leadership. Leadership also requires physical energy and mental clarity. In part 2, I go over the 6 key components of health and wellness and how you can apply these components every single day to become a great leader. This book is also breathable. What does that mean? It's 170 pages, 12-point font, with charts and graphs and pictures to break up the monotony of reading page after page. Finally, this book is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and of course, RobertPizzini.com. Folks, I want to take a minute and talk about Breeden Construction. Breeden Construction built iFly Virginia Beach 10 years ago, and our building is solid. Why? Building a standard. Our standard is excellence. Visionary thinking, innovative design, dynamic solutions, and transformative growth. While others may see lofty ideals, we see the very foundation needed to construct a better future. This isn't just a promise we make to you, it's the standard we uphold. This is Breeden Construction. Learn more at breedenconstruction.com. Headquartered in Virginia with offices throughout Virginia and North Carolina, you can contact Breeden Construction directly at area code 804-364-4600. Breeden Construction, a national general contractor. Your defining moment in the course, you said that you've been thinking about that a lot since we did that.
Yeah, I mean, in the whole day, because I've had a lot of defining moments, a lot of what some people would call like ego dissolution, because some people say ego death. The ego never dies. It's always there with you. And
you're amigo.
Yeah. So, and if you're familiar with the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, he had the whole ego where you have your animus and anima, you have your feminine and your self, and then the side of yourself that you show to people, and then your shadow self. Well, these are all parts of us, right? Mm-hmm. So, and those parts with certain thoughts and work throughs, some of people try to hide that aspect of themselves and try to say ego death, but it's really, you have to come to terms with it. And so, like, going from Carl Jung is now, I don't know if you know Dr. Schwartz, and he's the IFS, the Internal Family Systems guy that's doing the No Bad Parts book. Well, is guys like us that have bad backs and these things and these, things that make us our compulsory actions is to embrace those parts. So like throughout, like as you learn, and I'm like to learn too, is not only reading the business books, but these books that are helping ourselves get better. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves, like you said earlier, how the hell am I going to take care of the team?
Yeah, that's bad.
So
Gro Depot, let's go back to the business. When I first went in your place, immediately, I was expecting like a head shop, right? I was expecting the stereotypical kind of psychedelic marijuana, and I felt like I was walking into the garden section of Home Depot. I mean, the setup is professional, the displays and the pallets, and you have, like you said, you have all this different type of fertilized dirt and soil, and you have starter packs for cucumbers and tomatoes. And do you have romaine lettuce?
I have some seeds for romaine.
Okay, then we're going to talk about that because that's my thing. That's what I'm having for lunch today.
Nice.
Yeah, but really, honestly, man, the presentation was first class, and that's just like you said about my place, right? Presentation has got to be first class. When people walk through that door, there's a first impression immediately. And from psychology, the first impression is the lasting impression.
Right.
That's the thing.
And like the one bad one takes 12 good ones to reverse.
Exactly.
All that. Yeah.
Every bit of it's true. So your layout. So, I mean, were you deliberate in like that floor layout, or how did that happen?
I was a lot. And wow, I got so much pushback because at the point of opening, I used 2 Mexicans and less than desirable other general contractor.
Okay.
Because it was right after COVID.
Yeah.
I remember. Oh my gosh, I could not find workers.
Yeah.
I would call all these people, try to find a GC, general contractor. I had all these whiteboards at the store where I'm super OCD. I would, write everything down. I had scope of work.
Yeah.
And, and then I would have scope of work, and next to the scope of work, I would even have all the tools and like parts and stuff to go along with that. And guys would come in and I'd be like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning, and show up the next day. And I'm like, shit, here's another day that, I had a little bit of leniency with my lease, but here's another day of loss. We have 8,000 square feet here. I need to get this store open so I can start getting customers in here.
Yeah.
Because the day you open, no matter how good your marketing is or how whatever, you're going to take a while to start seeing some.
For sure.
Yeah.
Get some foot traffic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, like, it's taken a while to create the brand and then polish the brand and figure out like, to have people have that experience when they come in the store and not come in and just like, this is just a weed store,
Exactly. Yeah. No, you've done well there. And you mentioned earlier that Virginia law, you can have 4 plants at home. You can carry or possess, I think, up to an ounce. Now, I don't use THC myself, never have, but when I found out you can have 4 plants, and depending on the type of plant you get, they can be very tall. And I was interested in having plants for canopy purposes. How tall can I get them over my fence line, even though they're not supposed to go over your fence lines? But cannabis plants or marijuana plants were one of a variety of plants I looked at for canopy, for basically a landscaping setup in my backyard. And you very generously gave me 2 of your, you called them runts, 2 of your plants that you had in motion. And so I planted those in my yard. And so that I ran that experiment for about a year or so, and just dispose of the plants, didn't do anything with them. But they did get tall. But there was another plant, and it's a tall, skinny tree. I can't even think of what it's called right now, but I had that right alongside the cannabis plant, and whatever that tall, skinny tree was, that wound up being the canopy of choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just like Japanese maples. You have weeping, you have green leaf, there's varietals, but within the varietals are also cannabinoids. So within your body, you already have natural cannabinoids. So maple syrup, those are terpenes that make the taste of that maple syrup. So on a cannabis plant, there's terpenes. And if you look on a microscope, if you've ever seen a cannabis plant and it's real frosty looking, what those are tiny microscopic looking mushrooms, but they're called terpenes. So within those terpenes, it's just like I said, a mushroom. It's got a bulb, and that's where all the oil is. So if it's CBD or THC, which THC to me is like an airplane.
Okay.
So within cannabis, THC is like an airplane. It gets you high and takes you down.
Okay.
You have CBG, you have CBD, there's CBVA, there's all these other cannabinoids within there, which are, to me, in my opinion, are like your navigators and your pilots and some of the other things, because I'll see these crazy people go for these crazy, insane THC numbers, but it's more about an entourage effect of working a lot of these cannabinoids in together. For instance, your inflammation and everything, CBG and CBD, which those terpenes that come from that are caryophyllene, myrcene, linalool, which you get like lavender smells. And it's very interesting as you compile all this together. And then, like I said, it hasn't even been scheduled to do medicinal purposes, but all these other countries are so far above where we're at, where now a lot of people's like choice in, like, I've done some of these programs, is to go do some of these hard psychedelic drugs to do a fix, when I've seen amazing things happen just from cannabis with people, and like some with just no THC.
And we just saying in terms of like pain relief, or
anxiety,
PTSD relief,
anxiety,
TBI relief.
TBI. I had a really good friend of mine that got Lou Gehrig's disease, and I don't know if you've ever read the book Tuesdays with Maury and or seen the book that they made, Tuesdays with Maury. But ALS is amyotrophic sclerosis. My mom has MS, still alive. She's had multiple sclerosis since she was 16, and she's in her 80s now. God bless. She is a tough fighter. But anywho, my friend Mike, another Mike, there's a lot of SEALs and people named Mike. I have a lot of friends named Mike. So I had another friend named Mike. He contracted Lou Gehrig's disease, which is a very rapid form of, if you're familiar with MS and how it just basically makes it to where your nerves don't fire into those muscle groups. So with amyotrophic sclerosis, ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, your body shuts down, but your mind is fine. You're in a shell. It is the saddest thing.
For sure. That would kill me.
Yeah. So I had a friend, and he was on all these pharmaceuticals and asked me for pot. And at the time, it was illegal. But here's a SEAL brethren of mine I looked up to him very much. He took care of me. He was one of the first people I met when I checked into SEAL Team 8. And I was bartending at night and working for the Navy in the day. And, I guess you could call a stereotyper, but the first person I was like, that dude probably, I asked him, and he did. And I brought it to him, and Mike used it. And from all the Valium and all that other stuff, and he stopped, and then he was just eating like some cookies, and then you kind of had to help him smoke. It was amazing. I mean, it was like
mainly CBD or THC?
It was a little bit of THC, but I tried to give him stuff with more CBD, more just more CBD, not as potent.
Okay.
And what I saw changed. That's one of the things, like, if you read my LinkedIn bio or like what I was saying, that just changed my mind with,
Okay.
that was one of the first things that changed my mind with.
And this is before you went on the psychedelic thing yourself.
Oh yeah. This was when I was still working for the Navy at this point. I was not using myself. So like I was bartending at night. I was just trying to hustle money to buy a house at that point. You know, my wife and I were still renting, and I was trying to buy a house. And, you know, it's like, who am I going to tell this dying friend of mine that has this crazy disease? No, man, that's illegal.
Yeah,
It's like,
right.
it's like there's left and right margins that we have. Sometimes you have to kind of write on the outside of the margins.
That's right.
And I mean, it really was eye-opening to me. And then, you know, fast forward all these other years is another Mike friend of mine. He, I think we should get into that eventually, but
Now's a good time.
yeah. So
You're talking about Mike Day.
yep.
Yeah. So we'll put the book up. Matter of fact, let's take this out of here. So we're talking about Mike Day, somebody who wrote a book called Perfectly Wounded. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Mike Day, another Mike. It's funny, we have all these Mikes, small community, small world. Mike Day and I were good friends. Mike was shot 27 times in Fallujah. Make a long story short, Clark Schwindler was there too. Clark got shot, died immediately. Mike got shot all those times. I think he ended up killing 5 people in the gun battle. He killed 2 people initially when he walked in the room. They beat him to his gun, so shot his rifle out. He had to go to his pistol, killed those 2 guys. A guy comes in with a grenade, shoots that guy. Grenade goes off, knocks him unconscious. 2 more bad guys come in, shoot him in the ass and in the back up close, and then get into a firefight with the rest of the team out there. Mike comes out of consciousness, kills those 2 dudes, gets up, radio doesn't work, has to go out, take Clark's radio, and calls in to like, hey, don't come in here, I'm going to shoot you if you do.
Mm-hmm.
And then like in March of last year, shot himself. So Mike and I were really good friends. I watched what's the best way to describe this? I watched the spiral take Mike.
Okay.
And at first, man, at first, I didn't understand. It was hard to watch, hard to understand. And
What did you see? What did you see that you thought, man, he's struggling?
so I saw someone shoot themselves in front of him in 2008, and that changed him. He felt responsible for that. And he and I were going through
After he'd been medically discharged.
Oh yeah. So, and he and I were going through Ollie's VHP program, which is another great program. And we were
I got to get Ollie on this.
we were working on just physically getting better. You know, Mike had been shot
Yeah.
27 times. I had all these problems.
What year did you go through VHP?
That was 2018.
Okay, same year I went through. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so around that time, and then I just kind of saw the spiral take over, that, you know, the void or whatever you want to take him in. And I'm like really trying to figure out a way. And I see a lot of guys, but he was in such a different position now because I work as an ambassador for vets now. And so I talk to a lot of guys that are hurting, and it helps myself, but it's a very tough job. But with Mike was the toughest. I mean, I had to call Jason Redman and all these other guys, and like a consultant with a business where I reach out to someone that I highly esteem. You know, I reached out to Jason Redman and all these other SEALs that I thought that Mike would respect more than myself.
Mm-hmm. You
Because
reached out just to get them to talk to Mike?
Yeah, and I mean, a couple of times I did some SEAL stuff, and I found Mike was like living in a, you know, he had like gone and isolated, and I found him.
Mm.
And then at the very end, like I had found him again, and I'm like telling all these people, and I'm going over there and staking him out, and he just didn't want to see anybody or do anything. But in the process of this, like, I found myself in the same situation, getting sucked into that same void. And it happened really fast. Like, and I don't know what happened there. So I had that huge instance happen when I was in West Africa where I had this, I think, mental breakdown or something. It was the closest thing that I could compare to something like that, because I mean, it was a powerful moment for me. And then I get back, and Mike and I were in a little bit of comms because Mike was a great leader, and I called on him for consulting stuff all the time when I was overseas, because there was a lot of instances that, one, I don't want to let my boss know that I'm like having second guesses about something until I call him. And then I want to get like a second opinion from another operator with more experience, before I bring something. Because what happens if you do that? The client, you want to make the client happy. The client doesn't need to know anything.
Yeah.
Keep everything for yourself.
For sure.
So when I got back from one of those trips, then, Mike was getting really bad, and then I started noticing...
This is before Gro Depot?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, before Gro Depot, and then I started noticing, and then, like, I compartmentalize and end up opening Gro Depot. My wife, in the process of opening Gro Depot, loses her dad, her sister, unexpectedly, and then her mom from COVID.
Wow, that's a lot. Holy cow.
And then wife is Filipino, so in the Filipino culture, it's like a 3-month thing where you then have a big party. I forget what they call it. So her brother comes in town. We throw this big old party at the Filipino Cultural Center, which, have you been to the Filipino Cultural Center? Oh, wow. Man, like, if you've never checked it out and want to like culturally immerse yourself into something else, you should go do some line dancing and eat some lechon and go to the Filipino Cultural Center.
Yeah.
So we had a big thing for her. The family was leaving. I had the kids and the family stay at my house while they came in for this soiree, and they leave, and I'm like, oh, I got the house to myself, and I literally grabbed some marijuana and a pipe and was just gonna I have my house back to myself. There's not kids here and everything, and I get a call, and it was Mike had shot himself. That was the day after the soiree for my wife's thing. And
what year was that?
That was 2023.
A year ago.
Yeah, March 2023.
March of 20.
Yeah, and so I went over there, and it was really hard for the family, so I went over there and got everything from the detective and grabbed his truck, and the truck was really in bad shape too. He wasn't taking care of himself, much less his truck. So then Bolton Ford, they were great. I talked to them, and I got help from the Seal Legacy Foundation to take care of the truck because it wasn't safe. I didn't want his kids or anyone driving it. Something was wrong with it. I didn't know what it was. And they took care of it. But in this whole process, like, I had already started to get down this rabbit hole. And then, my friend kills himself. At some point, I start taking Paxil. And the Paxil ends up putting me in a worse position. I thought I was going to lose.
Were you taking that for physical pain?
It's SSRI.
Okay, all right.
And so was taking the Paxil, and then about 3 weeks in...
So for depression, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like 3 weeks in on the Paxil, I start fucking losing my mind. I don't know what's going on. I think I kind of thought I was going to have to check myself into the hospital for the loony bin, which is pretty crazy,
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, Yeah, so while we're talking about Mike, we'll get there to this. This is pretty cool. This is an awesome story. But out of nowhere, this lady, I went to this equine immersion program in New Hampshire. Tara Mahoney is the founder. And I went with a bunch of the guys from Extortion 17, which was the helicopter crash where all the guys ran, friends of the Extortion 17 and classmates. I did this horse tour, and out of nowhere, she calls me, and we put it together, and she's like, stop taking that medicine. And within 10 days, I'd gone to my primary care and had the genetics test done. And sure enough, I'm one of those people with bougie blood that I cannot take that stuff. And it damn near killed me. And what's crazy is, as I was prescribed that, Mike talks about in his book having that genetics test done. And that crossed my mind. But I was in such it's just like the dry needling where I talked to you earlier. You're looking for that relief, that super relief.
Yeah.
And I mean, the guys that get taken from in Mike's chapter, the enemy within that takes them, like, we are some compulsive people. We want everything right now. So you want that pain to be taken away. He wanted the pain to be taken away. With talking to veterans, when they make the choice to make suicide, it usually happens within 10 minutes.
Yeah. So just a little bit more on Mike for the listeners. So Mike Day wrote a book, Perfectly Wounded. He was shot 27 times. You described the firefight in the scenario. After he was medically discharged, he was a contractor, I think was he with Special Boat Unit?
Well, first he was working with the U.S. SOCOM Care Coalition as an advocate for, and wow, he ruffled some feathers there, but he did get a lot of guys, and that took a lot out of him. I mean, being around that community, that was where he had his first kind of real close suicide thing, and then he had to take a knee.
And this is before he wrote the book.
Okay. And then the book, I think, really drummed up a lot of stuff. And I don't know if you've ever read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me.
I have.
He had a really rough childhood.
Yep.
Mike had a very rough childhood. The similarities of the roughness of what he went through as a child is comparative to
about that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's amazing, and you really see, earlier you were asking me about sports and where I grew up and things, but wow, does that mold you? I mean, look at where, and David Goggins, great dude. Look at what he's doing, but what are the facets that he is not working on? And I'm not saying that he's not working on that, but I watched Mike where he would get to a point where, he thought he was good, but all that other stuff would drag him back down.
All that stuff from his childhood never got resolved.
Yeah.
Never got resolved.
Yeah.
That's so common. You see that in a lot of different, they call them ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And a lot of people resolve those, especially now military guys who are facing all these demons, if you will, from deployment. And, what you see in the war zone is you can't unsee it. And it's what nightmares are made of, going back to World War II and World War I. And throw adverse childhood experiences on top of that. I mean, this guy was in one of the most notorious firefights ever written about.
Legendary.
And then to come through that, but then to have all those adverse childhood experiences still, moving around in his mind, makes the struggle unbearable.
Yeah,
for sure. Makes the struggle unbearable. So,
but I mean, watching him write the book, I've never met Bob Vera in person, the author, but he also wrote Warrior's Path about, darn it, I'm drawing blank, lost his eyesight, was on the rooftop with Chris Kyle when he was shot in the movie, loses his eyesight. Oh, man, it'll come to me. But anyhow, in Arizona, he ended up dying in the hospital. The book's all about that. And, like, it was funny is when Mike was getting ready to write his book, he named all these authors. And I was like, oh, yeah, I know that one. Mm-hmm. And because I guess I sound like Spicoli. And
you look like Dobby and sound like Spicoli.
Yeah.
But that you are uniquely talented.
But, well, I get underestimated a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, people, especially when I speak other languages and or when I whip, stuff out, and like I have a problem with the same thing with myself and undervaluing myself, which is something that I'm working on. But in that undervaluing by other people, it has a lot of advantages for me.
For sure.
For me. It also, over time, is a little annoying. So, for sure has a lot of, because people, I see it a lot. I saw it in your course. There was one person in particular, and I could tell that they were just kind of taking a minute to get into it, and I said something, boom, I saw eyes open, and they were like, oh, shit, this is going to be interesting. Okay, like, this is not what I expected, And it's great. It's like,
that's very observant on your part, by the way.
The underdog.
Yeah. And because of that, you're looking for the reaction. You're probably gonna stimulate a reaction that they weren't expecting. That's pretty cool. So Mike, I just wanted to be just real quick on Mike, because he was a contract instructor here at iFly, and so I can't remember if it was Special Boat Unit 10 or
just group.
Or the group, yeah. So EOD group, but so I jumped with him at the beach at the, I forget what year it was, but they do the beach jumps over Veterans Day. Is it Veterans Day? Maybe it's Memorial Day. I think it's Memorial Day. And so I jumped with him. He's in here as a contractor, being an instructor in the wind tunnel. I've had several discussions with him, and just positive and upbeat. I never saw the darker side. Clearly you did.
Yeah.
Got a good buddy, Ron Condrey, who's no longer with us, took his own life, went through all the treatment programs. Everybody knew that Ron was struggling. He at one point was kind of touted as the success story of having gone through these treatment programs. And things didn't work out in the end.
I mean, and I am so lucky to live here and to, like, I was a SEAL, not a SEAL anymore, but I get some benefits from that. I mean, the SEAL Foundation is paying for a lot of stuff right now. There's a lot of stuff available to people that they don't know about, like the Headstrong Project, where they're doing things, and then some of the other programs that are available. It doesn't always have to be plant medicine. I got a lot out of that equine immersion program.
Yeah, I've done that too. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, connecting with, I have a service animal, so connecting with animals is...
What's her name, by the way? Alita.
Yeah.
She's just chilling out. When we started the podcast,
she was sitting up.
She was sitting up, looking proud, looking like she was ready to be on camera, and then as soon as we hit record, she's like, okay, you guys wake me up when you're done.
So... closing up Mike, literally, we, not me, but we had his brain donated to Dr. Pearl, and they are testing for CTE. And unfortunately, a lot of the CTE and these diagnoses cannot be found until the brain is dissected, which means they have to be dead.
Yeah.
So... like Jennifer Collins' wife, Dave Collins, and some of those people have been really, and there's Metcalf, there's a lot of SEALs that, I mean, that guy shot himself in the chest so he could have his brain. He knew something was wrong with him.
Did you know Chuck Hashik?
I don't think so.
Chuck was an EOD guy, senior chief, also worked here for a little while as well, but same thing. Total surprise for everybody. Chuck did not have a dark side that anybody saw. But he took his own life in 2018, if I recall correctly. But his family agreed to donate his brain for the purpose of the CTE study as well. But go ahead and show that right up here in this camp.
So this trident, if I'm not shaking too much from all the...
looks good, man. Looks good.
So we cremated Mike and actually had 2 tridents. I had one trident with a heart-shaped quartz that I put right on his chest. And then this one was on the box before he went into the fire, and I hammered it in there. And when they gave me back his ashes, look at how that trident came out of the fire.
That went
through the fire with him.
Let's just take a look at that. So when Mike was cremated, this trident was part of the assembly that went into the inventory.
It was just I hammered it into the box. It was just like a cardboard box. It was, but it's still got the prods on it and everything. And what's even crazier is the other one that I put on his heart with that heart-shaped quartz. The quartz, it molded into the flintlock pistol and just turned the flintlock pistol into a longer handle, but was quartz, and it had melted together. I gave that one to his wife. That one was very special, but I just couldn't,
wow.
When they gave me that, it was,
yeah,
man, wow. Talk about being through the fire,
right? Literally, yeah. Now that's moving, man. That's really something. Thanks for sharing that, by the way, because it's important to keep the memory of these guys alive. And his story is unique, but everybody has a unique story at the end of the day. His just happens to be a little more unique.
And now where we're at is everyone's trying to tackle this unknown, suicide thing.
Yeah.
And we really don't have an avenue. They're trying to figure it out. I went to the Navy SEAL Impact Forum in May, where I was blown away. The studies that they're doing and the amount of information, especially to sit as an operator and be able to sit there and understand and see all the clinical work that's being done, not just for the SEALs. This is overall across the board for all of our military. But what is going on behind the scenes and what is happening to us that we weren't even aware of until now? It is mind-blowing.
Yeah. I had the great benefit, and I wrote about it obviously in my book. I had the great benefit to go to the Marcus Institute for Brain Health in Aurora, Colorado. Yeah. And this is stuff I wish I would have learned 30 years ago. When we talk about brain health, brain link, brain and heart link, and all of it relates to the rest of our mental and physical well-being. But it's fascinating. Let's move on to vets, because you're an ambassador. Is that the right term?
Yep.
You're an ambassador for vets. So first of all, what is vets? VETS?
Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. It was founded by Amber Capone, which is Marcus Capone. He's a SEAL. Marcus had come back from his deployments and just really wasn't himself. And to make a long story short, Amber, God bless her soul, Mama Bear, she was desperate to get her husband back and found this program and sent Marcus down there. And currently, we're sending about 5 Special Forces operators down there a week, down there in their Marine, Army, SEAL, not just SEALs, they're across the board. And it's a amazing program.
You say down there, you're saying
Tijuana.
Going to Tijuana, okay.
Yep. So there's now they have another house there. It is not at all what people think when you talk about plant medicine and psychedelics. This is a house that has basically been turned into a hospital.
So it's a clinical setting.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, anything you need. I mean, the second you get there, your bags are searched. I mean, it's serious. I mean, it's like going to an inpatient facility. First day you get there, you go to a temazcal, which is awesome. And that's like the Spanish word for hot sauna. And oh my gosh, just earlier today, I went to Oceana and sat in the steam room sauna. I like doing a steam room sauna, and then shower, do like a contrast, do a cold shower, do a contrast therapy.
Is there a pool in that building?
Not in the Oceana.
Okay.
It's just the shower.
Right.
But nice sauna in the steam room, which helps with the back.
Oh, no, big time, yeah.
But
I was in this morning.
Holy crap, that was really torch by fire.
And what was the machine called?
It's just a igloo where they heat up some rocks.
It's
just this sauna, but it is
Yeah.
hot. And that's kind of the first thing. A lot of the people that are going down there aren't being completely truthful. So it's one also way to get like any of the last alcohol if people have been drinking.
Sweat it out of them, so to speak.
Sweat it all out, because the medicine, it does not interact well with any like the clonazepam, diazepam, those. You can't have any of those in your system. You have to have a lot of that stuff out of your system, which is like that for a lot, like Heroic Hearts. In Peru, they have two houses where they do either one in Puerto Vallarta or one in Peru. Peru does the ayahuasca, and then the Puerto Vallarta is a psilocybin trip for other, it's like vets, but it's another program.
Yeah, okay.
But in vets, they're doing the ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT.
Okay, no psilocybin?
No psilocybin.
Okay.
And
so it's a clinical setting. It's that's available to anybody who served, I guess, on active duty previously.
Mostly special forces, and then you have to meet the protocol. And you are vetted, meaning like you have the drug screen. You have an EKG. You do a few sessions with a coach.
Okay.
Which I think they're increasing the coaching, which is great.
Okay.
Pre-integration and post-integration.
Okay. All right.
Meaning that some of these people, like let's go back to the dry needling and the Paxil. Like, your desperation to not feel like this anymore gets so scary that you will do just about anything to not feel like that, or have those thoughts, or feel like killing yourself or anything again, especially losing a friend real close, and it just happens like that. So, like for me, I went down there and I didn't even it was just like, I'm all in. And then people were like, oh, you didn't even watch this Sean Ryan podcast about? Nope, I don't even know who Sean Ryan is.
Yeah.
I was just so disconnected and so down the rabbit hole at that end. Whereas other people had spent tons of time and, done their due diligence, but you can't, everyone's experience is way different.
Yeah. So, what is the overall intent, or what is the purpose? What is being healed through the clinical use of these various psychedelics?
So,
what's being treated?
In a way, let's make this really easy to understand. If you are driving on a road that has ruts in it, it's going to be hard to get off of that road. You're going to end up, basically the car can theoretically just drive itself because the ruts are in the road. Okay? Well, as we're trying to heal and we have these things coming up, like right now, I'm still working through my skydiving accident. Like a lot of stuff has just popped up through therapy and some other things. And so I have compartmentalized that so much that it's not coming up. So I need to get off of those tracks and get into fresh powder or create some kind of new path.
So some of these previous experiences that that our psyche has not yet resolved.
Right. And you're just kind of like, you're just trudging along. Well, the plant medicine and those things help you get off of that path. But the process that is the work is the integration afterwards to keep you from going back into those tracks.
Like what integration? What's
just staying with, for me, like before I went to Mexico, I quit drinking in May. So knowing that I have a problem with alcohol and being able to just like enjoy it and not overdo it.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of other things. And it was really crazy is after Mexico, I didn't even have the want, even sugar. It was weird. Like I have a huge sugar craving, and I didn't even want sugar. It was amazing. Like, and then just being able to stay on that, which I did a terrible job of my post-integration. I did a terrible job. That was my fault.
Okay.
I did a terrible job going into it, but I was, like I said, I was at such a point where I didn't think I was going to make it. But I'm still here now, so at least it worked, you know. And then, like,
you're here, brother, for sure.
And then working with the as an ambassador, by no means am I 100%, or do I think that I'm great. But there are so many other people that are so far off. I mean, if I was able to help Mike, and then he was able to turn around and come in here and be here with you and have a podcast and affect one person, shit.
Right.
For every veteran and every person that kills himself, we're having these 22 a day. Well, how about the people that this affects?
For sure.
It's like on average about 16 people per day, or per person.
Per person.
Per person. So, I mean, this is exponential.
Children.
This is exponentially. Yeah. So, I mean, like, that's why, like, you know, and not to shamelessly plug something else, but
plug it, man. Plug it.
Is I work a lot with Frog Dog K9.
Okay.
And that's how I ended up getting Alita. And Frog Dog K9 works with service members. They also supply equipment for service members, K9s, first responders, and Gold Star families. We are also doing demonstrations with the Seal Legacy Foundation to raise money for Gold Star families, which a lot of the money is going to scholarships for the kids, which is great. So, you know, I mean, not only have they lost their fathers, but they've lost a lot of benefits. And, you know, and then this gives them a little extra boost to further themselves in the future. And it's just such a great organization. I mean, it's great to go out there, and everyone loves the dogs. I love Alita saved my life when I was putting Gro Depot together. I was watching my friend Mike go down the rabbit hole, and that's when I ended up kind of like the movie Avatar, when he goes to get the dragon and they're like, how do you know which one's yours, the one that'll try to kill you?
Yeah.
You know, it was like that with this Link, with this little puppy. And I was like, that is my dog. I mean, we didn't have the little connect thing, but it was like that. And wow, I mean, it's changed my life. I mean, just being able to, in the ways that she's trained, she's very emotionally involved. So she'll pick up on stuff that's going on with me before I even know it. So just having that has helped tremendously.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when I went to the Marcus Institute, part of what we did was help train dogs just for like, I think it was a 1-day block or something like that. But the point was to understand what these service dogs are capable of. And it's incredible. Like you said, they recognize stress in their owner before the owner recognizes it, and really help them deal with it in some capacity.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And I mean, it's like, it's kind of crazy to say is that you don't have the awareness of yourself in training, that I have to kind of pay attention to my other environments, meaning my dog.
Yeah.
And which has trained myself, you know?
Yeah.
But
Sure.
being a canine handler, I've had dogs my whole life. But having a service dog, this has been, like you like to learn. I mean, we're constantly learning and bettering ourselves. Like, holy crap, this dog is so smart. I mean, you gotta always kind of be turned on to mitigate and kind of think a lot differently. So it's really,
That's cool. What kind of dog is she?
she's a Belgian Malinois.
Okay. All
So
right.
she will be 4 years old this year. I've had her since she was about 1.
Okay.
I have rescue cats at home. So
They all get along?
they do. But when I first got her, this was, a big thing because they're herding dogs. So when things run away from them, they want to chase and attack them,
Bring them back.
Yeah, and bring them back. So,
That's funny.
yeah, but I mean, she's been instrumental with my mental health and gets me out, forces me to,
For a walk.
go take her for a walk and get outside. And, I mean,
That's awesome, man.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Adam, I want to ask you one question I ask everybody when they come on the podcast, bringing it back to leadership real quick, because talk about vets. You're an ambassador there. You put together a Gro Depot. You own and operate Gro Depot. You are here representing
Frog dog.
frog dogs,
Canine.
representing frog dogs and canine, and of course Dale very well, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I've got
I saw it down there on the left.
I got my frog dog calling
Yeah.
there, so he's got a really cool setup out there. But so where I'm going with this is you're leading in many capacities, and our community, our brothers and sisters, we all need leadership. We if we have the capability, which you do, we should be leading people. But we also need to be led, and I think you just really, covered all aspects of that, kind of this omnidirectional view of it. But when it comes to leadership, how do you define the word?
Yeah. You asked me this earlier, and we spoke about this during your course, and man, you're stumping me again. People look up to leaders. There's, as a leader, you have people underneath you. So that executive presence and just like you definitely have to keep it as a mentor and not a friend. In an environment like this with iFly, very easily you could co-mingle with the employees in the tunnel, and then they get where they feel that it's something it's not, where you still have to be there.
Boundaries. You got to maintain boundaries.
Your leadership is, so having good boundaries, playing a role that they can look up to and trust is something huge. Especially, being in the teams and everything, they need to, being in the military, you need to trust your leader.
For sure.
You need to trust what he's telling you is like going to keep you safe, and you're going to feel good doing it. So, I mean, that comes out with trust and just that presence, and trying to have that presence, and just, I've got a motley crew of guys, but they're great, and it's like running a pirate ship, but even a pirate ship had a captain,
Dude, I love that. Being a leader is like running a pirate ship, but even a pirate ship has a captain.
Yeah. But, one thing, like I said in the course is, as being a leader and or a person, we are our best friends, but we are also our worst enemies. I mean, one thing with like my mental health and like going with kind of where I was saying the ego dissolution is, if you think of those parts that the guy that's always trying to make you do better, or those voices in the head that are like, you're not good enough or whatever. I kind of like think of it as a jury, right? You could get rid of the jury, but you're always going to get that same asshole that comes back and fills that seat. So like going back to like now, like before, it's kind of funny. I'll get into reading something and then I'll really delve into it. So now with where I'm at with my healing, I'm really getting into this IFS, the internal family systems from Dr. Schwartz, is because like I need to embrace that jury and know that, hey, that one guy that keeps me, and that's part of my drive. And you probably have it too, as being in the SEALs and the Naval Special Warfare community. We hold ourselves to such a ridiculous standard. Ridiculous. It's not feasible, nor is it sustainable.
Not sustainable. That's right. You can only do that for so long. That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, all these traits that we have from our previous military background that were great for us in the military, that got us promoted, kept us alive, did all these things, they're fairly worthless to us as civilians. And then honing that craft to work now and then just figure it out as you go along. And it's just, and then to have just even instances like this of a podcast helps you work things through just by talking them out.
For sure. Yeah, that discussion is big. And that's a big part of leadership, is having those discussions. But you're right, though, because I had to learn how to lead in the private sector. You know, a lot of the military stuff doesn't work. Some of it, applicable organizational architecture. But it's a process that's open and continuous. And we're dealing with human beings, you know, at the end of the day. And who knows what kind of a day or what kind of a week you've had before we have our interaction. And people can say that's not my problem, but it really is. You know, you have to understand the human condition in order to really navigate.
Yeah.
Navigate in and around it.
Nowadays, a lot more people need self-assurance. So instead of just the paycheck and being nice to the people, they need to, oh, what a good job you did on this, which is totally kind of...
Yeah, well, if it's sincere.
It is sincere, but I mean, what motivates in knowing...
How much validation do you need?
Yeah, well, so like there's two analogies I use for some of my employees, because there's like what motivates them. Like some of them need to be coddled and or in certain way. Some of them just want a paycheck and a steady job, you know? But then there's also some of the guys that are like a sushi knife, meaning they're, you know, a sushi knife's only sharp on one side. So you're only going to get that action out of them, and knowing that, you know, so what drives them, and then knowing their strengths and weaknesses.
For sure.
And those are all like, you know, we're getting back to what is the definition of leadership, but I mean, it's a long way to get to the end definition.
For sure. No, it's all good, man. And we'll close on the following, which could lead to another 30 minutes. But so I know you have hardware in your lower back, right? Did you have an L4, L5, S1 fusion?
Yes.
Okay, which is exactly what I had. And it worked great for about 4 or 5 years, 6 years, and then, you know, things just got really, really bad. What's your status there right now? Is your pain on a daily basis a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 7, 8, 9? And are you good, or do you have to do something next?
Oh man. Yeah, I need to do something next. I feel like the similarities of watching what a president looks like after the first and second term is what has happened to me since I started Gro Depot. You know, SEAL training and buds and all that took a lot out of me. However, that was only a few months. Whereas now, I mean, I'm constantly in it. It's really wearing me out to where like a lot of things are falling apart, and the back is something that I'm really been focusing on a lot more lately. I do a lot of yoga, which yoga's really helped my back. When I first got into yoga, I got into yoga because my back was so bad, and it's just like we're trying to look for that off switch.
I did the same thing.
We're trying to look for that off switch. And it took a while. I forget how long it's been, but yoga became something more than what helps my back. It's very
meditative,
spiritual, meditative to me. So, I mean, if you want to get into the super deep about yoga, you can read that autobiography of a yogi and go down the super rabbit hole. But it's helped me, and it also kind of gives me that centeredness and mindfulness, but also like having that selfie check of where are you at each day. So I think on average, I'm probably riding a 5 or a 4 every day. And then when flare-ups happen, it could be anywhere from a 7 to a 10 to where you just, and I mean, it's hard to come into work and interact. And just like you were saying, you're in a meeting and you're just trying to get comfortable, but the
perception from other people.
Yeah, is that you don't want to listen to them, and what they have to say is not worth your time.
Yeah.
When you're just like, you're sucking it yourself, you know, like.
Has your neurosurgeon told you that he can do another surgery and fix? No?
They laid cadaver bone and all kinds of stuff over there. Like, they would need a jackhammer to get all those screws out of there.
Okay.
I mean,
so mine told me, they said they'll just go up to L3. You know, L4, L5, S1 is fused. They're like, yeah, we can just go up to L3. But then, you know, when you look into this a couple of years later, then it's the L2.
Yeah.
They work their way so I'm going to Mexico next month, and I'm doing the full stem cell, you know, a 1 week stem cell injection, stem cell IV, hyperbaric oxygen, Tesla coil, electromagnetic treatment.
Out of pocket?
100% out of pocket. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's expensive. But there's an organization called the Miracle of Hope Foundation, and they set up basically it's a GoFundMe type of thing, but they help raise funds, and they will help offset some of the cost of this in one way or another. So more to follow. I'll let you know how that goes, but this is where my hopes are set right now.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it would be like. What does a day look like without back pain?
Yeah. Oh man, that would sure be nice.
You know what I mean? Like, what does a day look like that, you know, I mean, the other day when I was still on crutches, I had a friend that was like really sick, and it was like, I think they had COVID or something. I don't even know. And I was like, I would trade to have COVID right now to not be on crutches. I mean, like, I can't even like make a coffee and carry it on my crutches, you know? Like,
I look at the overweight person at the grocery store, who they're overweight, but other than that, they're moving just fine, no problem. I would trade their space for mine any day.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I mean, it's like the 57 Chevy, like I was telling you, like, it looks great, you know, like, let's look under the hood. Oh, crap, you know, like, what's going on here?
Exactly right. So, Adam, man, great discussion. Thank you so much for coming in. And, you know, I think, is there anything we didn't talk about? I mean,
No, I'm extremely grateful that for the opportunity to have taken your class and to be here and talk to you. I think hopefully some people out there pick up on some stuff and, you know, get some help and or just really raise some questions about, you know, how you standard think about things.
Yeah, leadership, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And health and wellness.
Opening my store and running the store has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. There's been no book. There's been no school. There's been nothing that can help. I use Retail Alliance a little bit, but then everything else is the pace of which our company is moving is insane.
That's great.
Yeah,
As a man.
it is. It's a monster. It's eating me alive. You know.
Get some help. Let's Let's take care of that. Hey, I'm going to talk about Magic Mind one last time. You know, the folks at Magic Mind got a hold of me about a month and a half ago, and they said, we like your podcast. And they said, and we think you're going to like our product. And all natural ingredients. And this is like a holistic version of other types of energy drinks, but it's not an energy drink. It's natural, it's holistic. And again, as somebody who pays attention to rest, hydration, nutrition, exercise, brain and heart health, lifelong learning, Magic Mind, it keeps me in a peak state throughout the day. And so visit magicmind.com/EYLJAN, magicmind.com/EYLJAN, and get a 45% discount off of Magic Mind. Adam, thanks for so much for coming in.
Yeah, this has been great. I really appreciate it. And yeah, have a good one. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Your Leadership podcast. To contact Bob directly or to learn more about how Bob can advance you and your organization through leadership training, team building, executive coaching, and public speaking, visit robertpizzini.com. Robert, Pizzini.com, and connect with him on LinkedIn.